So, ladies and gentlemen, today is a great day because I have a pleasure of presenting you my long distance guru, who I'm actually meeting first time live. It was always over the phone. First time live, I'm meeting him, and it's a great blessings to have him. You guys have actually probably seen him on YouTube, where he took the challenge of, looking at blank charts and proving astrology as to what it is. So please help me welcome my great teacher, guru, Kavindra Rishi, aka Jeffery Armstrong. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Ravi. Namaste. Great to be with you.
Absolutely. So I know we talk a lot, we spoke a lot, we used to, but I want to know, how did your journey in this divine science of Vedic astrology, Jyotish, begin?
It began during the 60s, what appeared to be by chance. I went to someone's house and went to a party, and they played a record in which someone had made a musical compositions of the 12 signs and a poetic description of their characteristics. And somehow when I heard it, I just woke up and I walked out of the party and started to walk home. And it was a very clear night, bright sky. I looked up at the sky and I saw it as the top of a skull, and all the stars as a nervous system embedded in it. And just as I was thinking that thought, a meteor shower occurred and just blazed across the sky. Hundreds of meteors just went swoosh across the sky. And from that time forward, I pursued astrology as diligently as I could. I studied at first with Michael and Stephen Erlewine, who had a bookstore in Ann Arbor, Michigan called Circle Books. And they wrote Matrix software, which was the first Western software program. I studied with them for the next 5-6 years, and then finally went into my guru's ashram at age 23, spent 5 years as a celibate monk, doing tapasya, chanting mantras, serving my guru. During that time, I came to realize that the Western astrology was incorrect because it was using the wrong signs. And the whole understanding of the correct sidereal approach to astrology became clear to me, which transferred me from Western astrology to Jyotish. But Jyotish wasn't called Jyotish then. This was in 1973. There was no Vedic astrology because I invented that name about...
You're the person. Vedic astrology original creator.
Yep, there was no, well, of the name, because we knew it was not correct to call it Hindu astrology, because Hindu is a colonized term to describe India or the Vedic Dharma. But there are no Hindus. There's the Indus River, and the word Hindu came from that because the Persians couldn't say H and said S. Well, couldn't say S and said H, so we got Hindu from Sindhu, but it's the people across the river. So calling it Hindu astrology was not accurate or correct or useful. So finally I came upon Vedic astrology as the best to use, and that was 1973, and that was just after I had met my astrology teacher.
Who was your astrology teacher in Vedic side?
Well, this is all part of a longer story, but to shorten it, his name was M.K. Gandhi. And M.K. Gandhi was part of the London circle of teachers of something Vedic that was taking place at that time, just as Maharishi influenced the Beatles. So did my guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, influenced the Beatles, and mostly George Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
So, in fact, I had come to his ashram through a record made by George Harrison. It was an ancient Vedic song, Govindam Adi Purusham. That song was orchestrated by George Harrison. And so that brought me to the ashram. But by that time, M.K. Gandhi was the astrologer. He lived in London, though originally from India. He was the astrologer to Maharishi before Maharishi taught Jyotish or Ayurveda. He was the King and Queen of England's astrologer. He was Ravi Shankar's. He was in that whole London circle. And he decided to make a West Coast office in Los Angeles. And in 1973, I was living in Los Angeles. And he met a friend of mine and asked us both to become his West Coast office, which included becoming his students.
Okay. Wow. So since then.
Well, then what he did next was quite interesting. He said, you know, you've been in an ashram, you've been brahmacharis, you're adhikari, you're very qualified. From the perspective of sattva, you're the right kind of people to learn Jyotish. And you knew Western astrology, so you have a great deal of knowledge, even though you've applied it not entirely precisely. But he said, there's just one more thing I need you to do before I teach you. I'm going to give you the 9 planetary mantras, and I want you to chant each mantra 100,000 times so that you introduce yourself to the grahas, to the planets. So come back to me when you've chanted 900,000 mantras. It took us about 3 months, 12 hours a day or more. And we finished the 900,000 mantras as he requested, came back to him, and he began to teach us.
Wow. I mean, we're talking actual ancient Gurukul style teaching.
Absolutely. And he would take me on tour with him. We went to Hawaii together, and he had a lot of wealthy clients there. And I'd be his driver and be in the car and take care of our meals and everything, like a chela. And then before he went in, he would discuss the chart with me of the person he was about to see. I can just give you one delicious example.
Mm-hmm.
He told me the chart before he went in and the story when he came out. So I said, Guruji, what was the situation? He said, well, the man was the head of the Hawaiian meat packing industry. His sister hated him and wanted to kill him and was going to take a contract out to have him killed, and asked me whether this was a good time to do that and when would be a good time to do that.
Wow.
And he said, and he was a Jain. He was a 7th generation Jain jeweler who became a Jyotish. So he was quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But he said to me, I said, well, what did you tell her? He said, I told her this wasn't a very auspicious time for getting her brother killed.
Oh my God. Yeah. And this is the Bhirat Parashara Hora Shastra astrology that you have.
Yeah, it was the northern school, not the southern school.
Okay.
As we all know, and it's important to say, all the schools of Western astrology and all the schools of astrology are quite ancient with pieces of ancient knowledge scattered in. The problem with the Western approach is that they have lost their bearings because they no longer understand the correct signs and at least don't use them, even if they understand them. And it's going to get very embarrassing in another few thousand years when the sky is 3 or 4 signs off from what they're saying is the case.
That's an interesting concept you just brought up, because there are many even Vedic astrologers who use that Western tropical Navamsha or the Western tropical movement, and they're trying to use that. I mean, what is your opinion on that?
Well, with no disrespect to them ultimately, I think it's pretty foolish to not understand what is visible in the sky and that it always was. I have an app called Sky View.
Yes, I have it too. I have it too. You look, you pointed, and it's right there.
And it shows you. So whenever somebody doesn't understand this, I just say, look, let's make this simple. Let's just look at the sky.
Yeah.
I don't want to argue with you. You just tell me what constellation that planet is in right now. And if you're going to make up a story about it being in another one, then that's your issue.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm looking where the planet is. Now, that doesn't mean that some kind of information couldn't be derived by using the wrong signs.
Mm-hmm.
After all, the universe is vast and full of many secrets.
Yeah.
I always like to say that a shaman with a chicken bone could be a better diagnostician than an allopathic doctor with a stethoscope.
Yes.
So there's such a thing as your previous life siddhi. So some people are psychic, some people are seers, some people have abilities, and they confuse their ability with their system. But a chicken bone is a chicken bone, and the stethoscope is, in general, a better instrument. So
Wow.
Vedic astrology is correct instrumentally, but if somebody's a seer, then you can't deny that they see things, can you?
Exactly. So what I wanted to know, learning under your guru and your experience in looking at charts, what were some of the unique things that you found that perhaps people have a misconception about in Vedic astrology?
Well, you know, the first thing he taught me, which is right out from the first 15 verses of Parashara's Aura Shastra, this is that if somebody misuses astrology, according to the text, they will be born blind in their next life. The verse also says, Jivanam, karma phala do, graha rupi, janardanaha. So two separate things. One is we're not supposed to manipulate the cause and effect in the lives of our clients. And if we do so, we do it at our peril. So because he had a very strong sense of the values of being a Jyotish, he instilled in us the notion that we were working directly for the devas and answerable to them, and that we were not there to make predictions. We were there to enhance the client's understanding of cause and effect so they could make the right decision.
Yes.
So we were trained not to make decisions for our client. That's a very slippery slope. I'll tell you a funny story. I was in Hawaii living for several times. I've lived there 3 times. On one occasion, I made a friend who was a Chinese gentleman who had an import-export business. One day I was at his office and we were talking cross-culturally, something from China, something from India, sharing back and forth. And I said to him that my astrology teacher had said, if you misuse Jyotish in your next life, you'll be born blind. And he said, oh, that's very interesting. Because in China, if someone born blind, we make them an astrologer.
Oh, that's a funny statement.
So it just added one more detail to me.
Yeah.
Astrologers who don't act responsibly as Jyotishis will be born somewhere in China as a blind astrologer. Be aware, my friends. Be aware.
Yeah. So you're saying that an astrologer should not like say, okay, you should marry this person, you should not marry this person, or no, take this job, don't take this job. They're just giving you options and you should go and choose.
Absolutely. And this led me down a very interesting road. I already had achieved a degree in psychology before I entered the ashram and before I became a Jyotish. So I came to understand a couple of things. One, in ancient times, it's true that being the king's astrologer, the astrologer of a Maharaja, was fraught with complex situations in which you were supposed to steer the king through difficult decisions. But it's important to understand that those Maharajas were very exalted individuals, highly, highly trained. And that's a very high pressure situation. And what you're trying then to do is help the king not to make mistakes that would cause harm to thousands or millions of people. So that's a different kind of Jyotish than helping the average person to redesign the cause and effect of their life and to integrate into their life the fact that we are immortal beings reincarnating and that we've had many lifetimes and we have many more to go. The astrologer is a kind of psychologist who teaches the cause and effect of the cosmos to people and then helps them to use that knowledge carefully to make wise decisions.
And this is something that I actually stuck by because you taught me this back in 2011 or 12 when we first spoke on the phone. You taught me this, like, you're going to do consultation. Don't be the lawyer, be the paralegal.
Absolutely.
And since that day, anytime I do, like, even on my website, it says, I will not give you yes and no answers. So don't even ask me.
That's it.
And this is why I want to thank you. Like, and then obviously your mantra that you gave me of Ganesha for my astrological knowledge. Thank you for that. What I wanted to ask you, especially the Varga charts. What is the importance of Navamsha, especially when we are looking at the horoscope? Many people have many definitions of Navamsha. What exactly is Navamsha?
Well, if I may, let me keep us going down the road we were on for a bit longer.
Right.
Because you just, through your reminder of how we interacted,
Yes.
Moved the conversation to another level that I think most people don't understand. And so it'll be very helpful for them to understand that all astrologers are not only working for the grahas, that's their more second level or distant relationship. You might have noticed that in Indian temples, there are sometimes Navagraha deities.
Yeah.
So that people can have access to them. But you probably haven't met anyone with Navagraha deities in their home, on their home altar. It's not recommended. That would be the equivalent of keeping 9 loaded 45 automatics around while having children.
Yeah.
The grahas are not considered casual interactions. So if you're a Jyotish, you can, as I do, I have Navagrahas that are about that tall, made of brass, on my altar, but I attend to them by doing sadhana for 2 hours every morning. And I have done over the last 45 years. So I'm in direct connection with them, not only watching their external movements as the planets, but in a direct accountability relationship with them. Now, they and all of us are accountable to someone else. And it took me many years to understand who Ganesha truly was. But Ganesha is the symbol of the fact that we are all a work in progress. Have you heard of the Swami Narayan organization, the Gujarati folks?
No.
It's a beautiful organization with temples throughout the world. In fact, in India, they have the largest temple in the world called Akshardham in New Delhi. Really worth seeing. They're just building one in New Jersey that will be even larger than that. They're called the Swami Narayan organization. At the entrance to several of their temples, they have a figure which is a block of granite, block of marble rather, and from the waist down, it's just a block of marble. But from the waist up, it shows a man with a hammer in one hand and a chisel in the other, who is carving himself out of the block of marble.
Okay, yes.
Now, this is the first thing you see when you go into the temple.
Wow.
And the next thing is Ganesha. Because by having an animal head and a human body, Ganesha is reminding us that we are halfway between animal and human on the way to divine. Therefore, every Jyotishi should talk to Ganesha before and after each client with a deity nearby and with a mantra. The other thing about Ganesha is that Ganesha is, of course, Gana Isha. Gana means guardian. This is where Christianity got the idea that we all have a guardian angel. Indeed, there are Ganas who work for Gana Isha. Isha means someone who's in charge. Technically speaking, they have to have an office. each of the devas in the Vedic thinking are not gods. That's a Christian usage that's inaccurate and deceptive and confusing, misleading. Deva means they're associated with certain laws of nature, and they have an office, a station from which they're doing that. And they're always available in their office, and their dial-up phone number, their speed dial, is their mantra. So Gana Isha, the Isha in charge of our evolution, our genetics, and who is our guardian, who sends his guardians, Ganas, out to watch over us as we receive our karma, our cause and effect. These intimate relationships of service between the practitioner and the devas are crucial to our being correctly aligned as we do this work. So in a way, you could say that rather than refined techniques like the question you just asked, which are available to all of us to understand in various ways through the text and through what's been passed down. But what I was starting to say about the king and being the king's Jyotish is that the people we're dealing with are mostly everyday folk who don't need us to predict their future. They need us to help them understand how cause and effect works. So in my own direction, you could say, I quickly became a cross between, just one second, please.
Yes.
Sandy, that bird is getting onto the audio. Pardon me, we have a bird that we're babysitting and she was making.
Yeah, heard that.
So, I'll tell you a funny story. When I started being a Jyotishi professionally, this was 1974, we charged $35 for a reading. A little bit of inflation since then. And without fail, almost every person who came to me said, I have two questions, and I'm going to say them to you in the vernacular. When will I get paid? And when will I get laid?
Yeah.
Because money, sex, and power are the everyday human questions.
Yeah.
And so why do I need to know about Navamsha to tell the person the answer to that question?
Yeah.
But what I do need is an answer to the place where they have an artery that's cut and they're bleeding profusely. I'm only going to have an hour. So if I don't go to the artery and I start giving them a facial or a lot of interesting information or many, many details showing off how clever I am as a Jyotish, they're going to bleed to death 2 weeks later, and I missed my chance to put a tourniquet on that artery and sew it up and make a huge difference in their life.
Yeah.
So you might say I took an almost homeopathic or chiropractor's approach to being a Jyotish. I asked the question differently than, how much do I know? I asked it, what is the next thing that I need to assist in the evolution of this work in progress being? And if they go away with that in the hour that they see me and it sticks, I might have really made a difference.
Yeah.
So this has educated the direction that I took. And it was started in this foundation of my own guru of Jyotish. And it's a little bit like when he stopped the woman who was no doubt in Sadisati or having a bad week, month, year, or whatever, and some ancestral karma. and who knows what, just inherited some money and forgot to give away 10%.
Yeah.
Poison of the family fortune was just about to ruin her life. There's a lot of interesting things that we'll be asked to be and do as a Jyotish, but we are supposed to be a seer, and we are supposed to be talking to the person, not showing them what we can do, but rendering the service to them that they have somehow invited us into their life to discover.
Very true. So then how can a astrologer, like the new generation of astrologers, us, what is it that we need to understand when we are doing a reading for a person?
Well, I would say the first thing is, I'm sure you've noticed this, and temperamentally, and this will tell you something about my chart without my having to say it, you'll notice that nerds are very attracted to astrology. There's another name for nerds in Ayurveda. What do you think it is? Any guess?
I'm not sure.
They're called vatas.
Vata is okay.
Or else they have certain key planets and positions that instill that in them in spite of their dosha. But typically, vatas are nerds, pittas are Arnie, I'll be back, hasta la vista.
Yeah.
And kaphas are, hey, Bazan, I'll give you a big hug, right?
Yeah.
Hold everything together. I love you. So it soon occurred to me that unless I could see the Ayurvedic body type in the chart and predict it over the telephone, that I didn't know the chart. So in order to keep myself honest, I began my practice with a rule that if I could not predict the person's Ayurvedic body type without seeing them, just from their birth information, I would give them their money back and say, sorry, I don't know your chart.
Wow. Very interesting.
Because instead of going on to how many complex prognostications can I figure out in this person's life, my first question is, do I know who the hell they are, or do I not even know? And what I need to know is, I should be able to say, are they Vata Pitta or Pitta Vata? Are they Kapha Vata or Kapha Pitta? And I'll give you an interesting example. About a year ago, here in Vancouver, my wife and I were at a cafe. And as we walked in, a young man stood up and said, oh, you're Jeffrey Armstrong, aren't you? I said, yes. He said, the Vedic Astrologer, right? I said, yes. He said, guess my chart. I said, okay, let's see. Well, your hands are cold, you're very slender, your skeleton is showing, you're pointy. You're definitely Vata as your primary dosha. And it's probably double because you're showing a lot of signs of it. And so then next, you're not Libra because you're a bad dresser and a little bit socially inept. You don't have much symptoms of aesthetics, no Venus showing. So that leaves Aquarius and Gemini, and you're pretty eccentric and funky. Also, by the way, you're both behaving and dressing. So I would put you Sun in Gemini, Moon in Aquarius. He said, that is exactly correct. And I said, there's some kapha, but it's not very heavy-handed, so it's either Virgo or Cancer or something like that. He said, I'm Cancer rising.
Wow.
So this is what I wrote my first book about, God, Goddess, the Astrologer. It's about this intimate relationship. between what we see and the chart. And that until we establish that, we're not even qualified to go on to the rest. So this then has educated, and this is exactly what I did on that TV show you were referring to.
Yeah.
With Michael Shermer, the author, the editor of the Skeptics magazine, who was on the Fox Family Channel with this show that was to make a fool of anyone who was a graphologist or a psychic or an astrologer or anyone. It was called Exploring the Unknown, but it was really shooting down the psychics. That was their real agenda.
Yeah.
So the 10 charts that they gave me, the first layer of what I saw was what the person would look like and how they would behave in their body. And the second layer was the normal things we would all look for, which is what are the outstanding patterns from where the planets are situated with each other and in the chart, and what are the superpowers and deficiencies that this person might have. And then what will that lead them to do in occupationally and in various other ways. So you might say I've stayed a very pragmatic astrologer with a very strong connection to the career, the relationship, the health, the embodiment of my clients. And I'm not interested in predicting their future, but I'm very interested in helping to understand when planets are pushing hard on them and they're thinking that they are responsible for that push and not the planet, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what happens in Sati Sati. You've got this huge planet pushing on you. So let's take Sati Sati as an example. When Saturn's crossing your moon, I call that the 500-pound fat man has come to sit on all your furniture.
Very true.
So he's going to come sit on all your couch. It's going to break and you're going to cry and go, oh, I love that couch. Aunt Tilly gave it to me. Oh, what am I going to do without that couch? I don't know. We're going to be lost in the pressure of this planet sitting on top of us, and we're going to think what's wrong with me. My job, and the clock is ticking, I've got an hour to get them to realize that they're an amnesiac who's forgotten who they are. They've forgotten that they're the Atma, that they're a divine being visiting the material world. Worse, they've forgotten that they have previous lives. They've forgotten they ordered from the catalog and from Amazon, and all this stuff is coming, but they ordered it, but they've forgotten. And lastly, they don't know that that huge force that's hammering down on them is not them, it's Shani. So they don't know how to talk to him. They don't know how to acknowledge his presence. And they think, what's wrong with me?
And we all did, even as I was questioning, like, what did I do wrong to do this, to get this? And I'm like blaming my family, myself during my Sadhisati.
Yeah.
And
hence the saying, why do bad things happen to good people? I've actually changed it. I'm going to write a book called Why Do Apparently Bad Things Happen to Apparently Good People? Because first, it's a chain of cause and effect. So we don't know when some unpleasant, bitter pill is delivered that it's going to lead to something that will be the best thing that ever happened in our life. And secondly, we're totally ignorant of and oblivious to the fact that we've had hundreds of lifetimes and that there's a trail of cause and effect that's following us. Jivanam karma phalado graharupi janardanaha. The planets are UPS, Universal Parcel System, delivering the things we ordered from the catalog, or some nasty person just fed us Monsanto food and we're opening a new account and now Monsanto's going to owe us something in the future. Could be new account, could be old. Not everything that happens to us is old karma. Some of it is some idiot opening a new account and they're going to pay later. But the real truth is we are so oblivious to this that I finally realized that Jyotish is just another way to teach yoga. And the essence of yoga is not my asana or my asana. It's understanding that I'm an Atma, an immortal being on a long journey, and that the universe is not a universe, it's a university. And the question is, what grade are you in?
I see.
So this is how I began to see my responsibility as a Jyotishi, because it used to be where this knowledge is from, in Bharat, in India, you were a guru as well as a Jyotish. But here I'm a fortune teller.
Yeah.
And so the client may spend an hour with me, and they may never be back. So I have an hour to do something useful, and I may never see them again. I have thousands of clients that I've had in the last 48 years, and I've never seen any of them again.
Why is that? Is it because you put them on the right path, or is it because they were looking for something else from you and they got something else?
All the above. It's because of their circumstances. It's because of the relationship between our two charts, which is also a form of compatibility. It's about the fact that they might have been going through a dasha or a transit that temporarily induced some sattva into an otherwise rajasic or tamasic life. And then that planet changes, and it'll be another 10 or 20 years or 5 years or whatever it will be before they come back around to that mindset of inquiry again. So I got them at a window. I didn't get them as regular full-time yoga practitioners. I'm talking now about what's been going on the last 48 years. It's only recently that there are now millions of yoga practitioners
Yes.
who are starting to become the clients of we Jyotishis. But see, all the more reason that we need to think of ourselves as teaching yoga in the name of Jyotish, rather than think that Jyotish is about their relationship to matter. Because in fact, that's not an accurate depiction. Because Jyotish is a master science. It's a Vedanga. There are 6 Vedangas.
Yeah.
Right? You know them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those 6 Vedangas, Nirukta, etymology, the source origin of words, grammar, phonetics, kavi, poetry, kalpa, rituals. But the master Vedanga is Jyotish. Because the sky map is the master science. So that sky map is also related to what's beyond the stars. So both yoga and Vedanta are the sister sciences of Jyotish.
So when people understand this, that okay, the parcel that I ordered 5 lifetimes ago is coming back now and it's not good, it's going to wreak havoc in my life, and I come across a person like you, and my question to you is, how do I stop these parcels from coming at me, whether in the future or whether, in this life? What is it I have to do to stop these 10,000 parcels that are on their way?
Right. And now we've opened, great question, we've opened the most important next step. But before we go there, hold that question and let me just say one more thing. In this process, I realized that how I spoke to them in the English language was having a tremendous effect upon them, because I was the magic man for an hour. So they would often open access to themselves. And if I said, you have a debilitated planet, they would go, do you think I should buy a wheelchair?
Yeah.
So I soon realized that the first translation of these texts into English was done by people who didn't know English. Do you use the word exalted in any other way in your English conversation?
Yeah,
in
no.
life throughout the world? No. So nobody knows what exalted is, but they sure know debilitated probably means I should buy crutches or a wheelchair. So then I realized we don't and are not trained in how to talk to people because no one has practiced Jyotish in English. And English doesn't have the Sanskrit vocabulary that Jyotishis had to talk to people in Hindi or Bengali, but still they were talking on the same page. So then I realized that the person I was trying to help didn't even have the cultural framework or the vocabulary to understand what I was saying. And if I wasn't careful, I would use the wrong English word, and that's all they would remember is I have a disabled planet.
Impacting them psychologically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've just traumatized them and made matters worse by one ignorant, unconscious, verbal slip. That's the one thing they remember.
Exactly. So true.
I have a wheelchair planet. Poor me. That explains it all. I hate myself, and now you've proven that it's for good reason. I really need a wheelchair. I'm so disabled. So aren't we intervening into their story?
Yes.
So to me, this part was far more important than just delivering some information to them. I'll tell you a funny story. I was once passed on to the head of a business in Phoenix, Arizona. No names. I never name names or do people's charts in public, including the president or whatever else he's called. But I won't do their chart in a socially derogatory way to expose them because that's out of integrity. Until they ask me for that information, it's nobody's business.
Yeah.
So anyway, this gentleman was very GQ, middle-aged, mortgage company, rich, successful, golden, Mercedes, etc., trophy wife, dressed to the T. We did the reading at his business in the conference room, in the executive conference room, sitting across from this president of the company. I read his chart, and we get to the end of the reading, and he's looking at me like, wow, you really knew a lot of stuff about my life. And I said, oh, and by the way, you really should do something about those hemorrhoids. He just about fell off his chair. And I was supposed to be passed around through the whole company, and he told them how amazing I was, but he also told them that I was also his astrological proctologist. And so no one else wanted me to do their chart. Looking in places I shouldn't look.
Yeah.
So as Jyotishis, we're actually entering into their life and trying to find out how to be of service. See? And less is more, as it turns out. The right thing, one correct thing, and that's worth the price of admission. And if they come and see us once a year. But the question you asked also led us to this. It's upaya, right?
Yeah.
Because if you diagnose the illness, you should have the medicine, shouldn't you? So then, does that mean I now get to sell a ring and make some money?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it means that in India quite a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Since the British colonized and money wasn't very available, it became quite common that the upaya was, I know someone who makes jewelry, you need a ring, or I know someone who does yagyas and you need this. And pretty soon, the Jyotish making 3 other or 4 other streams of income. Ethical or not ethical?
Non-ethical.
Not ethical.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about upaya because that's where you led us. What's the remedy? So, what are our choices? And this is where we encounter the 3 gunas. Our first choice is, does it really help to buy them a ring? That's my Navgraha ring. But am I wearing it to ask something from the planets? Are we on a gimme relationship? I offer you sweet bowls, you give me millions of dollars. How would you feel if you met a person and they said, good to meet you, give me money?
Yeah.
So this on the take attitude toward the devas, toward the grahas, has affected how we look at remedying the situation in the chart. So then what's the value of wearing a ring? Well, the first is every astrologer knows your problems.
Yeah.
You're advertising.
You're wearing a Jupiter. Okay. Oh, you're Jupiter.
Yeah, right. So it's kind of an in-joke that as soon as you get them wearing the ring, everybody knows their problem.
Yeah.
You're getting them to advertise it. Okay? So, but think of upaya as in levels of usefulness. So level 1 is wear a ring. Okay, so let's say there's a movie star. Let's choose Aishwarya Rai. Beautiful, intelligent, talented. So naturally, many people adore her. So somebody is sincere and they connect with her by letter and say, I'm not a stalker. I don't have inappropriate thoughts towards you, but I think you're amazing. You inspire me. Could you send me something that belonged to you? A piece of a scarf, anything. I just want a piece of you, but not inappropriately. Okay. So if she's convinced or her fan club is convinced you're sincere, they'll send you a piece of her scarf. And you think, I now have a relationship with Aishwarya Rai. Is that true?
No.
No. What you have is a little bit of her grace because you approached nicely. But what you have is a reminder to be like her. Okay, so that's called tamasic upaya. If you think it really does something, you're ignorant. But if it reminds you to do something, then it's useful. So you wear the ring, or you keep the piece of cloth she gave you. Let's just say she gave you an old ring and you wear it. Okay, great. You've worn it for 3 years, hoping you'll become like her. And then she sends you an email that says, I'm now teaching classes on how to become an actress. Would you like to sign up? If you sign up, then that changes your relationship. Now you do have a relationship with her.
Mm-hmm.
So this is called Rajasic Upaya. So how do we have Rajasic Upaya with a planet? Well, you determine which planet in the chart is the planet of self-undoing, and you recommend that person to take classes in the skills that will remedy that planet. That's Rajasic Upaya.
Okay.
Okay, so then let's say the person takes the seminar not once, but 3 or 4 times. Now Aishwarya Rai actually knows them, first name basis, begins to trust them, sees that they're sincere, sees them progressing through the seminar, sees them taking it again and again. She gives them her speed dial. She gives them her mantra. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha, that's the speed dial to Surya and Savitri. So then if you give someone a planetary upaya, but they're not sattvic, they can't do the mantra because they're not qualified yet to do a mantra and get the effect. So the correct upaya would be to have them do the activity of the planet until they remedy that part of them that hates that activity. It could be that just one upaya like this changes a person's life entirely. Because one planet is their self-undoing, and it again and again and again and again, it undoes them.
I see.
Is this making sense?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And what would be then Rajasic to Sattvic upaya?
The Rajasic is taking the seminar. Yeah, so for example.
And Sattvic is the
mantra,
speed dial.
Chanting the mantra.
Chanting the mantra.
After you have taken the seminar.
After you have taken the seminar.
Or while.
So what would be then, so pretty much mantra is the highest.
Sure. It's the final stage, but you have to be sattvic enough to already be doing mantras, or it'll be useless because the person isn't in a state of consciousness.
Yeah.
Allow the mantra to affect them.
Because they're thinking if I do mantras, my marriage problems will go away. That's
right.
what they are looking at.
Totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And worse, this ring will also make my marital problems go away. Also not likely, because Rajas is the place of action. But if you tell me, I'm afraid, I'm timid, I have trouble dealing with confrontations in various situations, I hate sales, I hate direct confronting situations, they make me very unhappy and uncomfortable, I retreat and hide out, then I will send you to fencing class, learning Olympic fencing until you learn to comfortably stab people. Because no one ever gets hurt by getting stabbed by the sporting Olympic foil. It's a thin piece of metal. You're wearing protection and a mask. And I would get them out there week after week stabbing people, but with no harm to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Until finally, they're not afraid anymore of confrontation. Or I would have them take a debate class. I had one person who came who's had zero self-esteem in the wastebasket, but a good Mercury. I said, go to Toastmasters. She went to Toastmasters, and when she came to me, she was like a beaten up mouse. 2 years later, she came back for an update, and she said, I did what you said, and now I'm the president of Toastmasters. And she came back with a gorgeous hairdo, beautiful ensemble, confident of herself, walked into the room like, aren't I good looking? Because she totally fixed. She did the upaya. The normal upaya for everyone is rajasic. And if they don't,
the activity of the planet which is causing the problem.
Yeah, that's tapasya. Tapas, sometimes mistakenly called austerity. Tapas is correct practice of something until it's no longer weak, until it's no longer broken. And you do it like learning to shoot baskets or swing a golf club.
Mm-hmm.
You do it correctly. You do it again and again and again. If you're afraid of people, I send you to a convention on alternative medicine, and you introduce yourself to everyone there and have conversations with 2,000 people over the weekend until you're no longer afraid to talk to people. We just fixed which planet?
Mercury.
And which one else? Maybe you're already a good talker. That's why I sent them there.
Yeah.
But which planet might we have fixed?
Sun.
Could be. Could also be Venus.
Venus, yeah. Relationships.
Psychology, relationship, interaction, social situations, feeling disabled in social situations. You're right. The root could have been the sun and a sense of lack of self-esteem. But whatever this is, in the amount of time you studied the chart and are with this person, if you don't send them home able to fix some broken part or to understand it and move to a higher level, depending on their guna and their level of evolution, which you have to assess. So the mechanics of Jyotish is there for everyone because many nerds, many useful nerds, have written books, because that's what nerds do. They write books and stay home.
Yeah.
Because they're antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
What they need is a little good upaya. But at least their superpower is I can write books and I'm smart as a whip. Okay, great. Everyone has their superpower.
Yeah.
So my point is not to be critical of astrology nerds, but to actually point out that until they get over themselves, they won't be qualified to give therapy. And you may remember that psychology and therapy are ruled by Venus.
Mm-hmm.
So nerds need to have a Venus. Until they have one, they'll be inept at interacting with their client, even no matter they know a great deal. But they'll be inept and awkward at delivering it. They might even make a mess of it, even though technically they knew. So what they do is give lots of information to make up for the fact that they're nerds.
Yeah.
So the astrologer has to fix themselves before they're balanced and can assess each client and can be both a knowledge source and a therapist.
Okay. Wow. This is, I mean, I got to tell you, you're like one of very few astrologers who went this deep in probably less than an hour about true Jyotish, the standard, the ethics, the meaning of true Jyotish. But I wanted to ask you, because thousands of people will be watching this, if they want to actually learn this from you, they want to go deeper, they want to stop the UPS truck at the red light, where can they meet you? Because I know you got some seminars coming up. You've got,
Yes. Thanks, Ravi.
talk about that.
We do have a seminar coming up starting tonight, actually.
Okay.
And it's on my website, which is jeffreyarmstrong.com.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook as well. So they can find that. My organization is called VASA, Vedic Academy of Sciences and Arts.
Okay.
The other thing that I've done for the last 20 years is week after week, I did a Wednesday class and I taught the Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, the Upanishads, the Gita, the various aspects of knowledge in Vedanta. I also teach a relationship seminar, which arose out of being a Jyotish. And I saw that the reason people asked both about their work, when am I getting paid, and their relationship, when am I getting laid, is that a good part of our life is our swadharma, or the work, correct work, and how to become aware of what my destiny path is.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is how to interact successfully with other human beings, and especially my intimate relationships. These are the fundamental questions will be asked.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of hundred recorded classes on all of this knowledge that are available for download on my website.
Okay.
And of course, I have a book, God, Goddess, the Astrologer, another one called Spiritual Teachings of the Avatar, another one called Karma, the Ancient Science of Cause and Effect. And the instructional book for this class is something called the Vedic Astrology Deck. And we haven't talked about this, but I devised a way of teaching, starting with the 5 elements, going to the 3 doshas and 10 body types, moving to the 3 gunas and their permutations, then going to the 9 grahas or planets, and then enhancing that with the 12 signs, and then culminating at the 12 houses, so that the gradual climbing of that knowledge pyramid would give people solid foundational skills rather than jumping immediately to asking technical questions that are beyond what they really should be asking. They should get the foundation right. So you might say I've taken a foundational approach. And so I believe that most Jyotishis are a little bit deficient in this. And that's then necessary for the therapeutic use of Jyotish, which I teach about quite regularly, so people can feel free to be in touch.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming, Guruji. And I just got to let you know, even you over the phone told me about my vata and my thing, and you knew my body like that. And I was like, okay, does he know where I am? Is he looking at me from somewhere? I'm like, man, has he got a surveillance on me? I mean, you were just like, because in 2015, I was going through things and I called you and like, okay, so you got this. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm messing with the wrong guy here. So no, thank you. And then especially that mantra that you gave me, it would just brought me out like that. And since that period, I appreciate the bad that comes to me through planets. I appreciate the good that comes to me through planet. So right. I was the very lucky one to get a Guru Mantra from you. So thank you so much for coming on my channel.
Thank you, Ravi. Well, and you make me proud with all the things that I see you doing, standing so beautifully for Jyotish and with great integrity in the world community. And, you know, there's a saying in the Vedas that we all have 3 debts, and this is a very important part of Jyotish. 3 debts that we should fulfill while we're alive. They're called rinas, R-H-I-N-A-S.
Mm-hmm.
The first is to our pitris, to our parents.
Yes.
The second is to bhumi, the name for the earth. The word human is bhumi without the B. It's humus, humis, homies, omis, humans. So we should be activists, we Jyotishis, in protecting Mata Bhumi, Mother Earth. And thirdly, we should pay our Rishi Rina, the debt to our teachers. So if you very kindly said to me, you have a debt to me for the learning I've given you, then I say, I'm deeply honored because I see you paying that debt back by spreading integrous knowledge throughout the world. So thank you as well.
Thank you so much, Guruji. Thank you so much. Guys, please go on his website, sign up. This is the greatest walking Jyotish, real Vedic astrologer on the actual Western Hemisphere soil. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. You become my worst enemy by making my head swell. So I can only tell you finally that the saying I live by is dasa, 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 anudasa. If one has the privilege of serving, then they are the servant of the servant of the servant of Bhagavan. So
Thank you. Namaste.